I'd like to call this November 30th special meeting to order. The reason we scheduled this meeting tonight is because it was the last day to decide whether to pass the LST, local service tax, or not. So, everybody got a budget with them, correct? Correct?
Well, partial.
So, I can't tell you how hard Mr. Dillon and Angie has worked on this budget. In our committee, try to make this work. So, the entire budget is the general fund. I mean, so we all know all the other budgets are really immaterial. And I spoke to Jim and Angie yesterday. I was here yesterday mainly for about 6 hours. I was here today. I went home and came back at 3:30, and it's now 7 o'clock, and I'm still here. But I think that we got this worked out. So if you want to just run through it, I want to go through the general fund first, and then I want to come back with some more suggestions. And if everybody's happy with it, then we should be able to just move forward. So you got page 1 of 9, which shows you your real estate taxes and all your income that's coming in. Everybody get their budgets out?
We got an abridged version in our packet.
What do you have?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's just a copy here that you put in the packet.
It was last couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Dropped it. Did you get it?
Yep, I got it.
Can I have one, Mr. G? That's the one you gave us most recent, right? Like this?
Well, nothing's changed from here.
Oh, then I don't need it. Then I don't need it.
Well, this is
I know, I'm
nothing
good.
really changed since.
All right, thank you.
So did everybody get a chance to go through this budget, and do you have any questions on the general fund? Okay. All right, so basically, you're familiar with the budget. You got your revenue that's coming in on the first 2 pages. Your transfers on page 3, and then you start your expenditures on page 3, which is legislative body, the mayor, and administration, personnel, medical, and insurance, just for your administrators. Then you go to page 4, and it's basically self-explanatory. You see what's here. Turn to page 5, and you start with your police budget. Now you have a C in the first 2017 column, which is the chief's budget, and then the last proposed budget is the borough manager's budget. So if you follow that down, do you follow me?
5 of 9, right?
Oh, okay, it says chief.
5 of 9, you see where,
Gotcha, yeah.
under 2017 says chief request,
Yes.
and then proposed budget is the one that the borough made. Okay? So you just follow that down, police personnel, full-time, part-time, overtime, holiday pay, and you just keep going through it, right? When you get to the end, there's a difference of, the chief's budget is $3,118,960 versus the borough's, Jim's budget, which is $2,938,700. So that's the difference between them two. Then you go down to the fire department.
Can I ask a quick question
Go ahead,
there? 2016 actual as of September 30th, I guess that is?
Yes.
So actual is 2.4 roughly, and estimate is 3.1. Is that Is that just a normal jump there, or does that seem like a big jump?
Where are you, Greg?
From the year-end 2016, 9/30, it's on 6 of 9. It says 2.4 million is what we had spent by,
Right,
and then it says year-end estimate is 3.1 million.
right.
So that's accurate, we anticipate.
October, November, and December, you have 3 months of
Right.
salaries.
Right, okay.
All right, then you go to your street and highway department on page 8 of 9. And then your last page is your medical insurance, your workman's comp, unemployment, all that stuff. So, to make this balance, to make this budget balance, if you look at, go back to page 1, under local service tax, which is number 310-500-01. If we enact this local service tax, we're projecting, and now this isn't our projections, this is the projections from, what's the name of the company, Angie?
Berkheimer?
Pardon me?
Berkheimer.
Berkheimer. There's 2 companies that collect it, Berkheimer and Keystone. So they're predicting about 165,000. Now, let me explain this
Go ahead.
Let me explain how this local service tax works. We'll get into, remember, Tony, the 7 times 5 is 35? But there's $35,000 a year being taken into the borough, which means everybody that works pays $5. Pays $10. The borough gets $5, the school district gets $5. So if you take 7,000 people that are working and they all pay $5, it equals $35,000. So then we said, well, how can that be if everybody's going to pay, if we're going to increase this to $47, if you take 47 times the 7,000, it should be 359,000. I'm just using off the top of my head. I think from yesterday, the number, 7,000 times 47, 329. So it's 329,000. So we called Berkheimer.
Jim Hunt, yeah.
Right, and we said to him, the numbers just don't seem, I mean, if you have 7,000 people paying $5 and we collect 35,000, why aren't we collecting 329,000 if we're raising it to $47? And the solicitor explained, before we even talked to him, what he thought was right. And basically what it comes down to is they're saying there's about 2,500 employees that work in Bristol, between Walmart and Lennox and Staples and all the Keystone Lighting. Now, a lot of these people don't live in Bristol. So what happens is, if it's a seasonal job, let's just say at Walmart. So let's say they have 200 employees. Well, I may work, I pay $10. Betty works, she pays 10. Tony works, you pay 10. And if we only work a month, we still pay the $10. The way this new local service tax would work is you pay $1 a week as you work. As you go. So even though you might only work a month, so you might only pay $4. You follow me? Instead of you paying $10, you're really saving money because you're only paying $4 because you only worked 4 weeks. So they said if you average that out, that's why it's very hard to get a handle on this. They feel that it's 165 is the right number. Now, it can be a lot less.
I think there was something handed out to us. I thought there was, I thought this number was like around 120, 127.
We said that was, we're using this 165 right now, right?
Okay.
So, losing my train of thought.
So it could be less.
Right, it can be a lot less, but if you're paying this $47, it's $1 a week, So every 2 weeks you get paid, they take $2 out of your pay. If you make under $12,000, you don't pay anything. So you're exempt from paying. So therefore, a lot of people that paid the $10 the first day they went to work still would have to pay the $10. If you make under $12,000, you don't have to pay anything. So, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, just on that fact, is somebody who makes under 12,000, is that something that they have to ask for a waiver? Or do they just automatically not have to pay it? Is it something where they take it out, Berkheimer takes it out, and then it's up to the employee to ask for a waiver?
I don't know.
They get reimbursed if the money is taken out. They would get, there has to be an application process
Okay.
for that waiver.
So it benefits, like, the way they're explaining it to us, it really benefits you by paying the $1 a week versus you paying the $10 and you're only working, say, 4 weeks or 5 weeks during the season. So you might have only paid a lot less than that. So I don't know how everybody feels about this, or, where you want to go with it, but there's other options that, I have in mind, that if you're really against it, and I know I talked to almost every council member here, and everybody's really trying to get away with passing this law. Matter of fact, I talked to Councilman Gerard in Florida. He's in Florida, and that's why he's not here this evening. He even said that if there's any way to not pass this, he said he would appreciate it. I talked to Mrs. Cullen, who's home with a bad ear infection, who feels the same way, and she said, I really think if there's a way to get around it. So, I heard everybody, so I can give you some other options. To me, $1 a week isn't making or breaking the bank for somebody that works. So, if you go back to this $165,000 on page 1, this is how I think we can get around it. And if everybody's okay with it, then we'll move in this direction. Local service tax, instead of it being $165,000, we add back the $35,000, which we automatically get, because we've been getting the 35 anyway. People already paying that. Right? You go to the second page where the interest transfer from the investment fund. If you could see that they keep projecting a higher number from where we were at 224 and 14, 271, now they're saying we might end up with 337 at the end of this year. They're projecting 413 for next year. I think if we could be a little bit, that's really being conservative. I think we could add $15,000 to that number.
It says 413 for this year's end.
Right, but you see the 422?
Yeah.
I think we could add,
No, to 260, to the year end. They're projecting additional $15,000
at the end of, to 413,
for 2016.
to make it 422.
Make it 428.
Right.
413 becomes 428.
So that is not,
So that's added in
not
there,
on
yeah.
here?
No, you added, take
Adding
$413.
$15,000.
Gotcha.
So let's just, as we go along, you got 15,000 and 35,000 we're putting back in. Okay, so we're up to $50,000. And we're shooting for the 165. Okay? On the transfer from the sewer department on page 3 of 9, I think that I would add $15,000 to that number to bring that number to 260. Okay?
For next year.
For next year.
Next year?
All right? All right. page 2, go back to page 2. You see where the Grundy reimbursement for the Grundy Arena is $50,000? Change that reimbursement to $100,000. I think the rink is doing very good under Mr. Dillon's management, and I think that the borough does a minimum of $100,000 a year work there that we could be reimbursed for.
That's for next year.
Right. And then the miscellaneous revenue, 2 more down. You see, we're projecting at the year end 142,000, but next year only 50. I think we could make that with no problem $100,000 reimbursement. So if you add that, that's the 165, and we eliminate voting tonight on this local service tax, and we balance the budget again with no tax increase for, I think, out of 15 years, I think we raised taxes twice while we've been here. But that's a way to get around it. Now, I foresee this being very conservative, and I think that, let me just go back to the police department. In our budget, if you notice on page, if you read down the bottom, it says the chief's budget calls for 14 full-time police officers and 2.5 part-time officers. In the manager's budget, it calls for 12 full-time police officers and 5 part-time police officers. So nobody here is looking to lay anybody off, so let's clear that up right now. But to make this budget work, you have to put 12 full-timers in there. Now, we all know we're probably going to end up with 13. If the other cop comes back, we will have 14. At that point, we know we're going to probably be about $150,000 short in the police budget. Is that a good number? 150? So we have to see how the year goes. We still have somebody out on disability, and we don't know where that's going. So I think we give it 5 or 6 months, and we got Joe is going to do his best to oversee the police department along with the chief. And maybe, you guys put your heads together and you come back in 3 or 4 months with some good news saying that, it's being managed a lot different and, everything's moving in the right direction. But I just want you to know that we're balancing the budget, knowing right now that we should be down 2 police officers. But the numbers still aren't far off. So, I don't want anybody to say we're laying somebody off, or we're going to cut cops, or we're not doing anything. But just for a budgetary number, that's how we showed this budget balance.
How many full-timers do we have right now?
14.
Working, 13. 13 working?
One's on IOD, so they're on duty. So.
And that money is paid from insurance, right, Mr. Dillon?
For the most part, right, for the most part.
And that's where I said about reimbursement from 50 to 100. Let me just tell you what some of that is, and I wrote it down in case somebody had a question about it. It's for liens on properties, which, let's just say there's a property that needs the grass cut, or there's a property that we go out to board up, or like the property in the North Ward that we went and fixed that wall, cost us $27,000, and then we got reimbursed from the insurance company. So this is expenses that we occur during the year, and then we get reimbursed as the year goes on. So liens is one of the big things. The other thing is the workman's comp audit. At the end of the year, when they do our workman's comp audit, if things go good, we usually get money back from that audit because you pay in advance. Correct, Angie?
Yes.
insurance claims that occur throughout town. We get reimbursed, so our guys are out doing work that Jim and Angie keep a very good track of what it's costing us to do these jobs, and then they submit these insurance claims and we get reimbursed. Or even Merle with the snowstorms, we could have a bad storm and he'll send into the state for reimbursement for money. So that's, things like that are covered. Injury on any borough employee that's out on workman's comp, like the chief said, we have one officer out. So any borough employee that gets hurt and maybe out injured for the year or for several months, we get reimbursed from our insurance company. So that's why I said being conservative, Jim had 50 in there. I think 100 is still being conservative. Hopefully that, you know, I'm not wishing anybody gets hurt that they're paying their salaries, but we have a lot of liens that are posted on properties that we don't collect until they're sold. That you know, councilmen call and say the grass is too high or windows are busted in a vacant property, and we go out and board them up, or we go out and clean the yard. All that time is kept separate, and it can be on the books until that property's sold. So that's where that reimbursement money comes in. So with that, who has questions? Mr. Devine.
The one question, and believe me, not that I want to be negative about anything, but when we talk about reimbursement from the Grundy Arena, I think we make it sound like there is a positive gain coming from the arena into the borough. So when we reimburse the 100,000 or the 50,000 from Grundy, now we're saying that we're going to move it up to 100,000. I think that the residents believe that there is a profit there. There's a growth, that there's going to be money on top of what we have to pay in loans, which clearly there isn't. So that's not being paid. So to bump it up from 50,000 to 100,000, how do we do that if we're not even paying? You know, we're not even able to pay the $660 or so a year in the note itself.
Let me
Yeah, you
take a
explain
shot. When council asked that we get involved as our staff, that year, in looking at the financials, the operation at the rink had lost $90,000. They were $90,000 in the hole. So council did not want to just shut the building down unless there was a chance to try and turn it around, to keep it open, you know, not board up the place, and because you're always going to be stuck with the debt service. There's just no way. But since then, we've been able to not only meet operating costs, we've also been able to repair and fix the building. I think if you look at the sign, that's basically a brand new sign out there, that for a few years it was black, it was dark, it didn't even work. So I think there's no way you could ever make the debt service on that building. And I think if anyone goes back, which I did, and you look at the financing, the original financing on that bond, there wasn't enough hours in the day or enough skaters on the East Coast to get into that building to meet that debt service. So right now, we have a very functional building. Certainly it's an asset that you could sell sometime into the future, so.
And the other thing, Mr. Devine, is that, and we'll get back to salaries at that rink, the manager's doing it for $1 a year, so we're not paying anybody. We're paying Angie to do all the financial end. We're paying Carol to run most of it. So the borough needs to start being reimbursed for their time, because it's really not fair to the taxpayers of this town that we are using all these borough employees and not hiring anybody the authority should hire its own people, and I said this before. They should have their own bookkeeper, they should have their own secretaries, they should have their own manager. We can't afford that. And like Jim said, he did, not we, he turned a $90,000 a year loss into a surplus every year. So for them to give us $100,000 and still be making money, I commend them on everything they're doing there. And when I first got elected, I said the same thing Jim said. You can never, ever pay the mortgage on this building. So I think that he's doing an outstanding job, and I think that we should be reimbursed for the money it's costing us for the borough workers to go there and do snow plow, to cut the grass, to paint the bathrooms, to fix everything that goes on in that building. We go there. So their salaries need to be taken out.
Okay, and I do not disagree with you. I don't disagree with you on that idea. But when we talk about the taxpayer, right, it's not fair to the taxpayer that our people are over there. So as much as we want to call it a board, a recreation board, or the Grundy Recreation Authority, it's us as a whole, as a town, that has to take care of it. And saying that, I don't have a problem with it. The only problem that I have, and it's the same problem that I've had since all the times that we talk about it, is that our borough workers are taking care of it. Mr. Doan's over there doing his best for $1. Angie's working there. We have people that work there, but the bottom line is our kids are not utilizing that building. The borough residents aren't utilizing that building. And again, the same thing. We've had this conversation before, and if we cannot, make it work in the sense of, it's never going to pay the mortgage, I agree, I understand that. But I want to get on there and do something in that building that the residents of the borough, not just our kids, because our number one, our kids need to be able to have more opportunities for recreation. And that building, the way it's set up now, they really don't. And even for the older people, right, when it gets cold, I would love to see that one rink, an indoor track, whatever we have to do to get some grants or whatever we need to do to utilize that building so the residents of the borough can use it, and it would be an asset instead of, just the only people that are really using it are people coming from outside of the borough. I mean, that's the only concern that I have. And when these numbers come up, it just, it's 100,000, but it's to keep open something that really our kids and our residents don't use that much. So it's just frustrating for me. So I'm not disagreeing with you that we need to, pay the people. I would just like to see it utilized in a way that our kids and residents can use it more.
Well, we did numerous studies on the building. We all agree that, like Jim said, we didn't want to board it up. No matter what we do to that building, it's costing money. And to go to recreation, do we all agree? I've been saying it before you were here, that the borough residents do not use this building. But we don't have a choice right now to say, we're going to take it over, lose the income, and pay for all the expenses. You got to operate this rink. So you're talking, unless somebody wants to come in with a ton of money, like you says, grants, unless somebody wants to come in and say, okay, we're going to turn it into whatever you want to turn it into, and we're going to give you $500,000 a year, we're just saying, and it's going to be successful, and it's not going to cost the taxpayers anything more, because they're already paying $664,000 a year for people to use this rink. We're paying for other people to use our rink.
Right.
So that 664 is here no matter who uses it.
I agree. And
now we got to figure a way, if we're going to take it over, we need to figure a way how we're going to employ all the people that are there, not Angie and them. Don't forget, you still got staff working there. Mm-hmm. The electric bills and heat bills and everything that's costing to run that facility. I don't know, what's the operating costs on that rink a year?
Probably about $600,000-700,000.
So we need to figure a way to generate 600,000 or 700,000 or more to try to make this work?
Well, it would depend, because I mean, to me, the simple thing is, like, again, I like to make things simple for myself so I can wrap my head around and understand it. If we have the rink there, and I know that we've done a lot of studies and we did a lot of things that are looking into how to utilize the property. But I look at it this way: if we have the one rink, and listen, if it's skating, it's hockey, whatever, it's already established, you keep that running. We have the other rink that we actually shut down, that we had to break down. If we just had that, because I have a friend of mine who he's renting his own building, he's paying $120,000 a year just to rent it, and it doesn't cost it. So if we even just did something like that, where you find somebody that can utilize the space, it's not even going to cost us anything. We'll still be making more money to bring into the borough than what we do now.
Why don't you do this?
Yeah.
Why don't you get your friend or whoever, and you come back with a proposal to the borough? I told you this a year ago. I mean, you said about grants. Go out and try to get grants. I mean, that's what we do as councilmen.
Well, here's the thing about it is, Ralph, when you say it, like, what we do as councilmen, it's the borough as a whole, right? I don't think any one of us individually is an expert at getting grants. I think as a borough, I mean, there are
We
people...
gotta research this stuff.
Right, I mean, it's not going to be, I'm not an expert at researching. I'm hoping that Mr. Dillon or whoever else, other people that we have in the borough would be capable of it, or the people that we met through this 21st century grant, and we could connect with them to get grants, so we can do some things there. But I will actually, I mean, the person that I know, it's not going to be him because he's already doing something, but there are other people out there that...
A lot of people came to us and said, turn it into indoor soccer, turn it into basketball, turn it into lacrosse, turn it into... We went to rinks in Jersey and other places that have all this. They're dying right now. They can't survive because the problem is, in the wintertime, from October to maybe March, everybody wants to be indoors. Come April, everything could be done outside. So these rinks sit vacant all year round. If we can build up an ice skating facility that comes in April or May and be strong, you can make a ton of money there, or on any sport. But are you going to get kids to come and play basketball and say, okay, you're going to play for an hour, everybody's going to pay us $50 a piece?
Well, no, it wouldn't work that way. I mean, that would never work.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
How to generate money.
It would be through leagues and tournaments.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean,
So
that's...
why don't you put something together and do a presentation?
All right.
You know, or if you want to meet, like, I'll form a committee, if you want to do it publicly, however you want to do it, whenever you want to do it,
All right.
we'll be glad to hear your
All right,
presentation.
I will do that. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, so do you have any other suggestions if we don't take the 50,000? How would you want to do it?
I mean, no, I mean, the thing about it, if you're going to take it, I just wanted to make a point of what that skating rink is. You know, I don't want the residents to think that we're able to, this is a profit, you know, that we're taking from the borough, I mean, from the Grundy rink and moving it into our general fund. We are above operating costs, which is great, but that has nothing to do with the $660,000 that our taxpayers need to pay for in debt service. That's all.
In here, if you look on the page, it says debt service.
Right, I understand.
I mean, we talked about moving some income to compensate for salaries and things that we're doing there to pay for this. Or, do you want to vote for the local service tax? Would you vote for it tonight?
I had some questions that were going to be on it that I think that you're answering.
Let's discuss it, because I would go either way.
The question that I had was on the motion to adopt municipal budgets, right? So if we're not changing, the question I had is, we're not changing the millage, so all the millage is staying the same, so we're basically not raising taxes. Is the $166,000 that we were going to generate on the local sales tax in service in addition to our budget right now, or is it?
No, it's part of the
In our
budget.
budget.
Okay, so it's part, I'm just saying the way it was written on this paper is, it says the general fund, no change, 35 mils, and then underneath of it, the revenue projected for a local service tax for 2017 was gonna be 166,000.
As the budget was proposed and advertised, it proposed 165,000 for the local service tax. And that's what was advertised, and that's before council tonight. What's happened, as I understand, it's been proposed that the budget be amended with the, as enumerated, and there's no longer the need to adopt the local service tax.
Okay, well, that's the question that I was asking. You know, because if there's no need for it, I wouldn't vote for it, but if it was something that was going to affect, you know, the police budget, or we're going to take away from our fire service, or anything like that, then it would make sense to do it, but, you know, but if it's something that isn't going to affect that, then no, I mean, I would not support it.
Well, the local service tax, do you realize what it only could be used for?
Yes, I read it.
Right, police, fire, stuff like that.
Can I ask a question? So, the budget, as we just discussed, without the local service tax, that takes us through the year, and we're basically saying we're gonna have to evaluate it as it goes, right? And
It's only a budget's a guide.
Sure, of course.
I mean, you could have $3 million for the police, we could spend, you know, God forbid, you know, I don't want to say it could be major incidents in town to blow that budget out.
Right.
And we could have snowstorms that, you know, blow the budget out. So
Right.
there's so many different things. We could have good weather and do no snow plowing and save money. But you have to adopt a balanced budget. That's why Jim is saying he's balancing the budget with 12
right,
and 5 part-timers
I understand that.
versus the 14 and 2.5 part-timers.
So, when push comes to shove, so I know that there are rules and regulations about where we can and cannot take money from when it comes to transfers and things of that sort. So I'm speaking, I don't want to speak for everyone, I certainly don't want to have to lay off a police officer. And I think, you know, that while we're certainly trying to get that budget under control, it seems like the number that we're at now is a number that most of us have become comfortable with. Are there places we could eventually pull that money from, other than...
After the winter, let's say we had a good winter,
Right,
and we got 50,000 in for snow plowing, we spent 25.
Right.
So you saved 25.
but, and so that 25 can be applied,
This is, the whole general fund is one budget.
Right.
So anything you save
right,
or you over expense will come out of this general fund.
so we can, because I know the local service tax is very explicit about what it can be used for.
Well,
So,
still would go in to pay for, it would go in and reduce, if we were gonna put up 3 million for the police, we would pay 165,000 less. You know, that, we would just reduce that into that number.
Yeah, as I had mentioned to Ralph, I mean, working pretty closely with the chief, and, you know, I've only been here 3 weeks, so, looking at the budget, I think during the course of next year, there'll be some opportunities to reduce our overall cost in that budget. As I mentioned to Ralph, I would feel comfortable at this point, you know, to say, and it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it's a step in the right direction. Looking at the budget, a 2% reduction in the budget, police budget would be about 60,000. You know, also too, if we look at overtime, and if we can reduce that by 5%, it's another 7,000. You know, with 5 part-timers, if we're utilizing those part-timers in the right, I don't want to say the right way, but if we're utilizing them to our best advantage to meet the police department's needs, we might be able to reduce that 225,000. So I mean, they're the kind of things that I'm looking at for next year. I mean, everybody here knows that the budget, the police budget, 75% of the police budget is a contraction.
Right.
Not a hell of a lot you can do about it. There's about maybe $800,000 that you can, you know, affect. So that's what we're looking at. I'm committed to trying to reduce our budget during the course of next year. And I have the chief's commitment to that also. And he's doing an excellent job at trying to accomplish that for the balance of the year, in my estimation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. I just wanted to, the last thing on this is, listen, if we don't have to pass a local service tax, I certainly don't want to pass a local service tax. I don't know that anyone would say I want to pass a tax. When we hired Officer DePaulo, I'm just going to level with everybody, I assumed that I was going to have to vote for a local service tax. And I voted for him with that in mind. So I'm very happy that that's not the case. I just don't want us to come to a point where we have to make a really difficult decision on an officer. If we have to make a difficult decision on a police car or something like that, then, that happens. It's not ideal, but I just don't want us to come to a place where we have to make a decision, and not just for Officer DePaulo, who I understand is doing a great job, but because I think we are in a rhythm now with the police department, and I think the chief has done a great job of getting things under control. Not that they're out of control, you know what I mean, that his organizational methods are a little bit different, and I think they're very effective. So I just don't want to shake that up, is what I'm saying. So I am more than happy to vote for a budget without a local service tax in it. And I'm glad that I was wrong when I thought that I was going to have to vote for that when we hired Officer DePaulo.
All right, just one more thing before we get into voting. We had another meeting today at 4 o'clock with a couple school board. The school board president was here and vice president. And we had a pretty productive meeting. They're going to go back tomorrow and speak to their board on some options that were out there. And I think Mr. Catroci said it best tonight, is that, we are trying to do everything we can to help them, because the borough itself for recreation, we don't need anything. We have everything we need. We have enough baseball fields, we have enough soccer fields, we have enough open space for our kids to play. So basically the decision is theirs. If they want our help, we threw out a lot of options. I think the president of the school board is very open to our suggestions, and has been very nice to work with, and things seem to be going in the right direction. So it's a matter how the rest of the board's going to feel tomorrow night, if she can convince them to move in this direction. And if not, I think it was a step, no matter how it works out, in the right directions, that we're finally starting to work together, and things seem to me moving forward in the right direction. So tomorrow night we'll get an answer from them. They have a board meeting tomorrow, and we'll see where they want to go with some of the things that we proposed. Okay, with that, there's nobody here in the public for public participation, so we'll go right to item number 3.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2017 municipal budgets.
A second. As amended.
As amended.
As amended, right, Greg?
Yes, as amended.
As amended
Sorry.
without.
As amended without the local service tax.
Second by Mr. Catroci. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So number 4, we have to vote on it or no?
No, table it. Just table.
Table it.
I'd like to make a motion to table
Number 4.
number 4.
Second.
Second by Mr. Catroci. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the tax and millage rate ordinance.
Second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 6.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the refuse assessment ordinance.
I have a second.
The $395 for the record, the same rate as the past number of years. Sorry.
Second by Mr. Pezza. Any questions or comments? All those in, Mr. Devine?
Yeah, the only question I have is to the solicitor. Mr. Salerno, did we have any of the other 2 companies that put in bids for the the trash bid to challenge or have any kind of action to let us know they were going to challenge the approval?
You want to go in executive session, we can.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 7.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Borough Solicitor to petition the Courts of Common Pleas to approve 5 mil tax from 30 mils to 35 for the general fund.
Second by Mr. Pezza. Questions or comments? This is the same thing we've been doing for the last so many years, so it's not a increase to your taxes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any other questions or comments from anybody?
Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn, second by Mr. Pezza. A quick executive session.
Should we just stay here, or?